back in the 70s and 80s, especially before double digits, I used to love going to playgrounds. So when I was here with my friend, I was trying to have fun. It was kind of like my spiritual daddy, as I would say, was taking me to the park for a little while. And I would have to say that I really enjoyed myself when I tried to take my focus off of, I might not have very many days left because of what's going on in my head. This is pre-getting Social Security and realizing about the privacy invasion and them being on my computer and wiping out hard drives and taking my song files off of my computer in front of my eyes. They want to make sure that you understand everything belongs to God, but they don't want to teach you that from day one, do they? Only when you read the Bible, you can't figure that out either. It's not mentioned in there at all. If your government's telling you to go to a school and they're not willing to cover the expenses of your education, because you shouldn't even have expenses, it should be free. Your education should be free. Say, my education should be free. I should not have to pay for it. By the way, my house should be free. My car, my possessions, my full use of everything that I need in this lifetime, especially food, should be for free. They want to tell you, well, we narrowed it down to food and water, and then you go to what? The most generic canned goods that they can give to you. And I'm telling you right now, if it didn't come out of the ground and it's not extremely healthy, and the soil was healthy that it was planted in, and so was the water, and so was the farmers that raised it up and harvested it, there's a good chance you don't want it in your body. Because we transform, and we also like everything around us, the formation, like that. And chances are when a genetic girl is giving birth to a child and screaming her lungs out, that is the Satanist way of torturing a human being. Because why? Because don't be scared when they tell you that they can clone people. They're rubbing it in your face. In other words, a baby can be born out of a tube. Yeah. In other words, God can do it another way, and they wanted me to know that. Why is that? Because Bethany, if you're out there, you would not believe the prayers that I had for your existence. And her way had to come out with the help of what? Others. In other words, not just ejaculating cum inside of another human being is what produced a child. There's other efforts. If I ever wanted to have a kid, what did God tell me? You want it directly from you, like Adam and Eve. You want it exactly from you. And chances are, it's glorious. When you realize, in this lifetime, God wanted me to know you never wanted to be your idea of a genetic girl. What you wanted to be is loving. What you wanted to be is loved unconditionally, because God understands things that man will never comprehend. That's why the judge throws a whole lot of people in jail, calls them guilty. We go out to a nice diner later on that week to celebrate his victory in a case that they've been working on for years. Well, there you go. Humans boasting about their human way, which is lost. Just like all these people, buried. And here's something that'll freak your mind out. Considering that they can literally shut down the entire body, okay? To the point that somebody who does the coroner, what is that? What do they call that? Person that prepares people for, that. They are absolutely 100% certain that person is no longer with us. How many of those people do you think wake up at some point and they know, because I'm still alive? What do we do about this? Do we keep living in the way that the government says this is what's best? Because what made us think that this is the best way to preserve a body? Go and seek back in culture times when they didn't do that. Go seek other ways that people used to respect. And what they say, they didn't die, they transform. Obviously, there is a separation time, right? And in a reformation. And maybe that's what I learned when I was in Ono. And I saw in the fog the shape of a body. In other words, something can form. This was one of my favorite things. I have a picture on. It's a car. And there used to be a steering wheel on it. Look at this tractor. A bulldozer, is that what it is? I like that. And I like this car. Now I would sit on it right now, but it's wet. And there's a lot of really cool stuff over here at this playground to play on. If I was doing music videos, right now I'm not because I'm working in the studio all the time. I might, have thought to come over here and put some of it into my music video. And why is that? Because what I have learned, people want you to believe, especially people like Joyce Myers, it's grow up time. It's mature time. Only God that falls in love with Tracilyn Michael says, do not grow up. Do not mature like that. God, in my opinion, likes it much better when you're sweet, loving, and a whole lot of other things that most people would declare what? Unfit to be human. Because you would be running around here at the playground in a cute little schoolgirl outfit and pigtails, going down the sliding board. Yes, you would. And the parents around here, oh my goodness, cover your eyes, sweetheart. Call the cops. That's inappropriate. Because evidently when a child is 6'2", evidently God likes them tall, then all of a sudden, by a certain height, we're supposed to stop being in a certain manner, which in a lot of situations says just as energetic and enthusiastic as the most enthusiastic child in the world. Look at this cute thing. That's cute, isn't it? I don't know if I have a picture there. But whenever I am doing videos and stuff, I try oh so desperately to keep other people off of it because that's not what I wanted to do in life. I didn't want to walk around with a camera talking and stuff, I really wanted to do stuff. And if I was going to be sharing in video, it would be things that I would perceive more enjoyable for me to sit around and watch. Most of the stuff I don't really watch that much because why? Because it's usually me just opening up about my insight on what I think about the things that I had endured. It looks like we're kind of going the same way. See the sliding board? I like that a lot. I remember that playgrounds was a real, they ought to have this like at a water park, shouldn't they? That's what that reminds me of. See the ladder? Me and some children all kind of came at the same place, so I'm going to have to go up here further because I want to talk a little bit more about stuff. If I would do a music video at some point, and I did come here, which I hope not because I'm hoping to move at some point. The truth of the matter is Ohio in itself is okay. It's not what I wanted in life. The truth of the matter is, though my family was my family, it's where I was born and raised, and I really don't appreciate knowing that Kim Rosenberg, a psychologist out of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, when I cried my eyes out to her and told her what I needed, she should have instantly said, here's a letter, you gotta make a phone call, here's just procedure that you need so that you can get your needs met. We need to get you into a nice home for you. And the licensed psychiatrist and psychologist in the world, most of you, I would say, are all assholes. And so's the School of Psychology. Is it in Boston? You're an idiot. Licensing all these people that are inconsiderate of life. You don't help people by prescribing them a shitload of medication and not dealing with what the hell they're talking to you about. I'm taking prescription right now, or I'm getting prescription because I don't know what else to do in my circumstance because I don't meet anybody else who's civilized. And you know what I do? I just throw it away. Why? Huh? What's the government gonna do about it? Hey, governor, you see you're wasting taxpayers' money because the requirements say in my psychological condition, and it's real, the depression is the fact that you won't personally stop by my place and tell me we're gonna remove that chip for you. Okay, that's my depression. My anger outburst and my bipolar disorder is of the same thing. The entire United States government is getting in my way and stepping on my toes while I'm trying to live. And your procedure is bogus. And that's what leads people to the street. Just like the mask. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later, okay? I'd like to take my mask and send it over to the lawmakers or the people who are on TV telling us it's what's best. No, I think what's best is you stop being chicken shit. I think what's best is we get all the chicken shit out of the freaking goddamn political fields. That's what I think. We need real leaders. Do you know what I think? I think God has another plan that's much better. And the government that we once knew is going away. That's what I think. Why? Because all God needs is somebody to start being a vessel for the truth. The formation of the God of life is what starts to take place. Okay, it starts to exist. And then that old stuff, what is perceived more as the old government, they don't want you to know that newness is entering in continuously. Just so you know, God wants everybody to know that America was not discovered. It's a bunch of bullshit. Home of the free, is that it? Free. You're free to just rot away on Los Angeles beach. While everybody walks around you and says, you did it to yourself. What am I supposed to do? Start sharpening stones? Huh? And make a bow and arrow? And tell what? The governor I'm going to take over this land? I don't know what when there is an attack on a country, my question is, for the people who do this, why don't you go straight for the problem instead of the people who are living in strain of the problem? That's what makes sense. It's not people's fault that they're being dominated. I can testify to that. If there's ever a military thought of coming to this country's soil, as they call it, what they call America, to strike against its citizens, I would ask of you to halt your decision until you listen to me speak. The ones you want to go after are the ones who are dominating everybody already. With their laws and their recommendations, and they're taxing everybody, making life very difficult. Does anybody in America ever buy a house with cash? Did you ever buy a house with cash, John Bon Jovi? Did you ever write out a check and say, this is my house? Did you ever go buy a brand new car? Did you get one for your wife? Kind of interesting how these rock stars buy things with cash. When considering I played out for a living, and what did God show me? Even as an escort, when you're making thousands of dollars a week, well, you're gonna have all kinds of expenses. So don't ever think because somebody makes thousands of dollars a week that overall, that they really have a much better quality life. So we might have more money in the gross, but especially until the government gets their hands in on it, right? Because that's what they want. They want your money, is that it? No, it's not that they want your money, it's that something's trying to limit you to the freedom department. So then you can do things more favorable of the life inside of your brain. I wonder what that purpose would be. Limitations. You know what tells me? I read psychology books and they said, what? The only limitations is in a person's mind. And that's why God says what? With God, all things are possible. Not necessarily with the human being. And that doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, mean that, hello? That doesn't necessarily mean that what? God can make things happen in a person's life. For instance, when I was fallout crying and praying day in and day out for years, that I'd be able to get my needs met. What was there to do? Be an escort. That's a great and mighty, powerful God. Thank you. Thank you. I may have my season of time of, look at this, play shaper. Play shaper, and check this out. Today, I always say to any parents out there, if you have children and you do not want to take financial responsibility for them for whatever reason, or it's too stressful for you for whatever reason, too much of a burden in your life, why don't you consider giving those children up for adoption? Why isn't there a better plan than what has already been implemented? That if a child is not happy with their home life, that they can speak with somebody that will guide them into a healthier circumstance? Does it exist? Are we looking for the right details? Are we aware of the healthier details when matching others up? Education goes a long way, but only if you're willing to be open to what's best, which would be the Bible. out of all the books that I've read my whole life, is there a Bible in your school today? If there is a library, is there a Bible? Do you know what I've learned? You know that Bible Gateway? You can't trust it because they block content. And if you want to look up certain verses on Bible Gateway, you will find out that the same verses you are aware of that are in the Bible will not show up on Bible Gateway. Now, is this Bible Gateway's fault? I don't know, you tell me. I used to use Bible Gateway a lot, and what God let me know. Somebody at LCBC Church, Lancaster County Bible Church, let me know when I went to a special class outside of church that the Bible, which there was many different versions of the Bible, NIV, the New Living, I don't really remember a whole lot of the different versions right now because unfortunately I have not been studying like I used to. And the reason is because I ended up in the middle of nowhere realizing you have to do everything yourself. And then, as I started to realize that, then I started being harassed continuously. And then, because I don't want to go in public, because I don't believe, I'm not convinced the virus is real, I end up being what? Just in my tiny little apartment. Currently, for 2 years and 5 months, working on 2 albums. And I'll tell you right now, that's not the way I wanted to do music. Okay? I wanted to enjoy my life. Yeah, this is the first time I've been able to work on grass for a long time. I'm indoors, I'm near a tree. Humidity. Okay. If I could align things up in a manner that I wanted, I could be living and maximizing my fullest potential at life. I would have a great time. And that's exactly what the enemy doesn't like, which is usually in and through human beings. But see, Christians don't tell you that. The speakers won't tell you the enemy is in and through everything. In other words, there's people with technology that are able to get into your minds. They're able to manipulate you and confuse you as far as to signing into things or messing up relationships. Okay, so you need to be more focused on God and not the physical, which in my opinion is a great blessing, but to as you go through life, to really only grab hold of that as you're coming up on 50 is ridiculous. Why can't they learn by the time they're 3? I got to show the park. It was very important to me to come here because I think it's a nice park. When I came here, I think it was in 2011, my mind, I was really, really, really scared that it wouldn't be long before I'd end up in like a healthcare facility with a lot of abusive nurses, most likely, very unhealthy food. That's life, right, Joyce? But that's life. If that's what God wanted. No, that's not what God wants. Okay, God doesn't always want the worst things for a human being, you fucking psychopathic bitch. That's what you want me to believe. Why doesn't God ever want the best for me? Don't you think I would be in agreement with it? Joyce Myers doesn't believe that a human being should be in agreement with the idea of life and what it means to them. You may be in very difficult circumstances right now. Well, God has you right where God wants you, really? In difficult circumstances? Doesn't want me in a manner that I wake up every day and I'm so happy to be where I am? And I love the home I'm entering into, sleeping at night. I love my furniture, I love my clothing. No, I'll tell you what. Joe Osteen and you would tag team and beat up somebody and say, it's your attitude. You gotta be more positive. You're never gonna get anything else in life unless you learn to be grateful for what you have. And I'm here to tell you bullshit. Do you know how I got what I got? I didn't stop complaining. I didn't stop asking people how I could get my needs met. I'll tell you how. I stopped fighting the government in some circumstances and just accepted that I finally got something to work with. That's how. And I personally want an apology by the highest rank of the frickin' United States whatever. Leadership. Not the president. The president's a scumball that submits to whatever he's told to do. I'm talking about somebody who is the ultimate dom. Somebody who's dominating America. who evidently is screwed up in the head. Okay, because you should have a plan. And when a person needs help, they should know exactly where to go, not, where do I go? I don't know, says another person who's listening to the person talk. And then there's 6 other people. We have no idea. Why don't you just go get a job somewhere? Just like that. Let's just go get a job. How much do they pay right now? Huh? Why do I have to go get a job instead of serve God? Why don't you remind me that you can't serve God and money at the same time? So why don't we eliminate that first? And say, how can I get my needs met? What are your needs? Fulfillment of every little thought that's in my brain that is beneficial for life for me and beyond? Well, sure, that's what we all want. That's exactly it. You see, that is what we all want. And the problem is, we're letting something dominate over us while it's electrocuting us. Okay? I could spend all of my days talking to you about the unhealthy mental status that we live in America and all the excuses we've heard for years. There's just no jobs, there's just no jobs. The corporations picked up and they moved away. Oh my goodness. Whatever should we do? Should we get an axe, a stone, and sharpen it and start cutting the trees down? I don't know, you tell me. Should we start getting seeds and start planting them into the soil? And watering them and making sure they have plenty of light and chasing the children out of the garden? Should we go and hire Ted Nugent and ask him to shoot any animal that tries to eat out of our garden and he can have the meat for free? Sometimes I use people's names just because. Not that I'm a fan of theirs today, just because it's still in my head. And if somebody's name is still in your head, you should be entitled, don't you think, to some kind of compensation. Why? Because their name is taking up space in your brain, which number one is causing more problems than a person could ever realize. Okay, that's why. I last listened to Bon Jovi music before I even started my musical endeavors. It was a John Bon Jovi CD, single, like a solo CD of himself. And I actually liked it. And I didn't really like Bon Jovi music too much because I was just simply getting sick of a lot of things. And that happened to be part of it. You get sick of listening to the same people and the same storylines and whatever, okay? And it's not just people in music, it's the world. It's just kind of boring to you. So everything becomes boring. Do you feel that way? Things just start to become extremely boring. Eventually, I'm going to make a video specifically aimed at Bon Jovi, and I'm telling you, I don't ever want his name in my skull anymore. So if there's technology that can remove that, I'd appreciate it. And the reason is because what started off as innocently sharing my life story and sharing these are people that I listened to and liked and encounters I had when I was going through my teenage years. And then the reason that I no longer really had really much interest in any of them, really, especially that 80s stuff, was freaking hideous. Okay? And when it comes to musical endeavors and anybody tries to pair me up with somebody from the 80s, okay, if I sense that at all or wanting to go meet them, I become very hesitant. Why? Because that's right now I would make myself throw up if I wasn't going to continue doing more of a camera work. I might get it all over me, you know, because it makes you sick in the stomach. Why? Because there has to be more than that, okay? They are not the superstars of the world. And there are people that still to this day, you know, I can definitely say I admired what I admired, and that was then, okay? And that is a large contribution as to what's inside of my head and comes out of me. But that doesn't mean that I think the way other people think, and it drives me nuts. I don't want to talk about that right now. It's a whole nother subject. Okay, let's just say that when you become self-employed and everybody you meet keeps insisting opposition of what you know to be true, which is period. Back then, today, you are the most marketable personality when it comes to music that there ever has been. And if you're not the one, then you're one of them. Very easy. It's not rocket science. All it is being friendly, maintaining, taking care of yourself, and you have major hit songs. You get on stage, you sing for about an hour or so, you get off and wave to everybody goodbye, see you the next time. I happen to know that it's not hard being nice to people who are friendly. And most people who will approach you when you're doing musical endeavors would be friendly to you, don't you think? I don't know, you tell me. So I finally got my needs met in a manner that I'm okay for now, but government, I'm coming after you for more. That means through lawsuit. I need to be able to live and fulfill what's in my head. That's why I'm here, okay? Your schools didn't teach me that. God's sensing it as I go through life. It's all over the Bible. I would caution, the United States government to read the Bible. And then you're going to point out that God formed government, right? But you're not the government. You're people who are being dominated into the human race as, we're the ones who know what's best, huh? We got the best for the interest of our country, really? And meanwhile, you're giving out government contracts that can't even provide enough parking spaces per apartment, per person that lives there. And there's an empty parking lot right beside the building, which shows that Donald Trump is not a very good negotiator. Because it wouldn't be hard to negotiate with somebody who considers herself a Jehovah's Witness. Do they believe in God or not? I'm talking about the people who knocked on my door over and over again. What do they usually ask us? You know, one thing that a lot of people would say is show people God instead of talking to them about it. The problem where I'm at right now wouldn't be that hard to take care of if intelligence just stood there, glanced around in a couple seconds, and then signed a piece of paper that says take care of the problem this week. Why? Because there's all kinds of man-made laws that says we can't do the right thing unless we have approval by above. And Tracilyn will go above and beyond to just simply send a message that you're an asshole for not taking care of the problem immediately as soon as it started to happen. I talked to more and more people that went and talked to the local township supervisors, okay? Went to like city counseling meetings and stuff and brought it up. Nobody cares. Do you know why? I'll tell you why. Because they don't have to live in it day in and day out. And if the people don't like it, then they can just move. Well, guess what? I want to move. Now, why don't you give me thousands of dollars and I'll go out and give me a big chunk of land and all the material and I'll build myself a house, asshole. That's how you solve the problem for Tracilyn Michael. Okay? Know this, I'm not anti-government, but I'm sick of a bunch of people in a suit and tie with their hair cut up above their earlobe acting like they are the ones who have our better interest. There's many times that God has taught me why, and is teaching me now. Ever since day one, when God told me I'm good enough, evidently for God's purpose, my acoustic guitar, I know enough, musically. Maybe God's been leading me to places of high, and in the process throwing people off of a mountaintop they don't belong on. And maybe you only need to do one chord that way because what? Because, damn it, this is just like what? Moses with the rod. Tracilyn shows up somewhere that God asked Tracilyn to go. Why aren't you going to the place that I'm asking you to go? Goes with the guitar. Don't you believe that your talent's good enough? And then what? God tells Tracilyn to stand in front of masses of people and just strike the chord one time. And watch what God does through everything, including your bank account. So then Tracilyn could take care of Tracilyn's self, especially if she gets a larger percentage of every single ticket that has been sold for the show's day. And because Tracilyn feels very strongly, thinks, knows, paying taxes is not legit. It is not wholesome. It is not holy to give what God has given to thee to a group of people that abuse that person continuously. So in other words, you can tell the United States government, fuck you, bastards. You don't get none of it. And if you wanted to, you could inform people this is what's God's best, is that you tell the government, fuck you. And they can't do nothing. And because God has people on the earth, in the earth, and all around it, even in the ground, they understand that if you're really anointed by God and God really is using you and speaking through you, that even if they mishandle you and put you in jail, The arresting officer would end up dead, gone missing, and the judge that would refuse to set you free immediately, bye-bye, would at least be expelled from his position, possibly put into extremely difficult circumstances to where he'll understand that living in his judgment is painful as hell. You know, I see, that's the God I praise. That's the God I'll put on lingerie for. Yes, I will. And if it takes form, I'll suck dick all day long. That's the God I love. Because that's what they want. They try to scare you away from everything. It is sinful to sleep with another male. Well, then why don't we say there is no male or female? Good question. I'm going to go up here. I want to share something with you. And instead of the lawmakers of the state of Ohio making me wear a mask, by enforcing it upon everyone, making everybody miserable for a sickness that is not real, but guess what? I feel very strongly that the lawmakers in America, period, but especially in the state of Ohio, in which the state and jurisdiction I live in, they should be, what? Mandatory psychological evaluation. That's right, people. You should be pressing for a mandatory psychological evaluation. And you should be allowed to witness it and be present as to whether or not they're sane enough to be in the position. Start by reading the Bible and start asking them questions as far as to what we're entitled to. Okay, how about breathing? And if we believe that there is no virus that's going to hurt us, then we should be able to live without a mask on our face and go places without being harmed by other citizens that are convinced that they have to wear a mask or else. I think the United States government better arrange for me that I don't have to listen to your fucked up laws anymore. I wanted to live my life innocently. And you're a bunch of miserable old pieces of shit that need your ass kicked. Maybe God just said, what you do is good enough. I just need somebody, anybody, who's willing to pick it up, to part the Red Sea. The Red Sea. Huh. The Red Sea is what? All the people that are assigned to us are life forms, aliens to us, that are assigned to us and trying to make us not able to see righteous holiness. Huh? The life God intends for us to live and fulfill. Yeah, that Red Sea.